Look, memory can change the shape of a room, it can change the color of a car. And memories can be distorted. They're just an interpretation, they're not a record. And they're irrelevant if you have the facts.
Someone wants me. Someone roaming the streets wants me.
Your car's uglier than I am. That didn't come out right.
It's the Al Travis Show, and in all honesty, I have no idea where this next segment's going to go. We usually get Senator Aric Putnam on the program, and it's going to be laughing and giggling and having a good time talking politics, and I don't think it's going to be that today. Senator Putnam, how are you?
Thanks, my friend. Not great.
Yeah.
Not great, but I'm okay. Thanks for having me on TAC, though. I still appreciate
Are you? No, and I'm pretty sure the next week, and even two, my guests who live in the world that we're going to talk about, come on, we're going to have to relive some of this, and I don't know if that's even necessarily a bad thing. Do you mind, Mr. Putnam, describing how you found out what your late Friday night, Saturday morning was like? How did you find out, and your reaction? Can you fill us in on a more personal level what happened with you and your family?
Yeah, sure. So pretty early that morning, you turn off the ringer when you go to bed, or you never get to sleep. And so the first text I checked was a thread with my Blue Dog pals.
Okay.
And it was a couple of very brief texts, not a lot of detail, because I think people were in shock, and it was still pretty early in the morning. And it just said, Melissa and John were shot. That's pretty much all it said. And
wow.
I immediately called my police chief, Jeff Oxton, who's a great guy, St. Cloud police chief, fantastic guy, and said, have you heard anything about this? And he's like, yeah, it's true, but I don't know anything yet. And so then I called some people in St. Paul and found out that it was not only true, but worse than I thought.
Yeah. So you find out that this lunatic on the loose. Did you find out about it after it was quote unquote all over and there was just a manhunt going on? Were you, there's like a 90 minutes between Hoffman's being shot and then Hortman's. Were you in that in that window when you start finding out how? I guess my question is, in St. Cloud, the first ring, maybe this is a way in that the folks closest to, we had two other representatives and a senator who, thank God, right? One wasn't home, and the other, the cop drove by. We'll talk about that maybe in a minute. So that stuff was going on. Did you guys hear about it in that meantime? And then if you were in St. Cloud, was there a worry that this nut job would be that far north? Or what did the guy say? How worried were you for you and your own safety?
Yeah, well, so it was about 7 o'clock in the morning. So I think that, the manhunt had already begun in earnest by the time I found out.
Okay.
Like I said, my police chief guy is incredibly good at his job and a really just solid guy. And the number of times I heard the phrase abundance of caution in that 36 hours was pretty severe. So actually within probably an hour, I had a squad car at my house, and it was there for a day and a half. And I'm not going to make light of it, but I was essentially in house arrest. Like, they wouldn't let me leave. I mean, they would let me leave, but then they'd say, well, if you do, we're coming with you every step of the way, and you're endangering people if you do. And I was like, all right, I'll stay home. That's good.
Well, and thank you for doing that. What I find interesting about what I don't know, I love finding new things out, and terrible way of doing it, but the amount of technology that we have. Yeah. So a drone goes into the Hortman's house to make sure it's cleared. Is that in the back of every squad car? To be able to do that, that was interesting to me. Then the idea that once they figured out this guy was a lunatic for, and on the loose, that all points bulletin, I don't know what in the world they call it, a stay in your house order was given on every phone, in a 3-mile area or something like that. You've got to do that. I mean, I understand we have that for when they're trying to find a lost child or something and they boom it across the state. But literally, it was just right there in Brooklyn Park, right? You guys stayed down in your house. They figured out it was a guy dressed as a cop. Wait a minute, you do that. This guy could walk up to any house and say, hey, I'm a cop. I'm here to talk, and do the same. Within a minute, they're sending out a text saying, only open the door if there are 2 of us with you. I'm like, brilliant. The ability to do that, how do I put this? 20 years ago, we didn't have that. This could have been 10 times worse. These officers did such good, and I'm going to speak up for my Faribault County officers I can, of course. as the manhunt goes on, Faribault County, as I understand it, was also asked, and when they were up near that Green Isle, they were the ones flying the drones up there to find this guy in the field.
Huh?
Kudos by the cops, and the fact that they forced you to, be barricaded for a while. I'm okay with that, Senator. We didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, me too, completely. I've heard some people say like, "Oh my gosh, why did it take them a day and a half?" Or, and you're fighting one person among almost 6 million. That's insane. The fact that we found him that quickly at all is so impressive and so cool.
And again, God does a lot of things for us, and talk a lot of religion for you. But a month from now, the corn's 3 foot high, and he could probably lie on the ground and never be found.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I mean, that's lucky. This senator, and they put it out there, Senator Rest, she's in her house. She's not knowing what's going on. A cop car's outside her house. It's this lunatic. But by the grace of God, another cop car comes by at this same time and spooks him off.
Yeah. And, and also the cops thought to go check Melissa's house after going to John's. Like that's
great intuition
stuff. Like it's a good combination of technology and care and skill. So I actually feel pretty good about that element of this whole thing. Actually feels pretty solid.
I've been saying this for 3 days now. This is, and maybe it's sad, and some sad commentary on my part. If this happened in Phoenix, Arizona, we'd read about it that day. We would have had more news stories on the parade, not the parades, but the protests, whatever, the No Kings thing. That would have been our news cycle, and I would have saw that story in Phoenix and said, man, that sucks. Those people are crazy. It's different when it's here in Minnesota. It's different when it happens to friends of yours. John is a very good friend of this program. I love the guy. It's a strange difference. I can't imagine your life. This hits home in that why he started in Brooklyn Park, no one knows. He could have started in St. Cloud. Do you feel that?
I do a little bit. Now, in terms of like actually me feeling endangered, I wasn't as worried as I think a lot of people were. I mean, just having the squad car in my driveway made me think, I should be all right. And then, but afterwards, you do think about copycats and you think about maybe there's more people involved and those kinds of things make you anxious too.
Yeah.
But when I talked to someone pretty early in the process and they were talking about a list, and then I was told that if you were on the list, you would have already been notified. No one told me I wasn't on the list. They just said that if I was, I would have been notified, and I hadn't been.
Okay.
So that also made me relax a little bit. But when you look at the list itself and what the guy did, I'm going to be as because we're pals, I'm not going to swear, but I really, really want to swear on your show right now. But
depending on the word, we could probably live with it, but I'd like to work tomorrow, so censor yourself.
Let's just say this bad person. I'll go with that and just say this bad person was also a lazy bad person. Because, all the people who are on his list are, except for a couple, they're easy commutes.
Yeah.
He couldn't even drive all the way to St. Cloud to be evil. That's how horrible this person was. He's lazy in addition to being evil.
Well, and the other way to look at it, I'm not trying to promote any of these nut jobs, but if you're going to do this and you think this is your glory spot to get out, somebody had mentioned somewhere in something that he was probably going to be murder, suicide, cop, death by cop at the end, and then he chickened out of that. You got to do the most damage. You got to find that would make sense. You got to keep it close and go do your damage. I'm not sticking up for him, but here's what I'm asking you, sir. Because you and I argue all the time about stuff, right? You and I fall different, but we're friends.
Mm-hmm.
Does this drive home to you, and maybe I should have your wife on, the idea that you do a job for the rest of us? We pay you, we ask you, we vote for you to please go do this for us, and there are people who can take something this far. How is this part of the job description? You have to worry about this.
You get verbal abuse all the time.
But that's even too much.
Disappointing. Yeah. I agree.
So if that's the worst of it, that would be shame on Minnesotans, right? Verbal abuse to a guy we hired. But now you take it to this level? And one guy doesn't speak for all of us, but how many nut jobs are there in the world? I guess I'm more concerned for you and my friends that I have on the show now than I ever have been, because I thought, okay, you get a bad email once in a while, but maybe a question you're not allowed to answer. Do you get threatening emails? Have you gotten them?
Yeah,
that you blew up
years ago.
Really?
A couple of years ago, I got a security system for my house because of death threats.
See that? Okay.
But this is the thing that amazes me, and maybe you got more insight in this than I do, because I don't know how someone goes from being an online troll or someone who yells something mean to me at the grocery store. How do you go from that to planning something like this? Because this wasn't just like, I'm mad.
Oh, yeah.
Dude actually invested and did some work on that part of it.
Well, we got to look at something. I don't know where you get police lights to put on your car, and if you order them, shouldn't you be flagged by somebody? I mean, flip, I mentioned I needed a new hat for golf, and I get Fedora messages all over Facebook. How does the government not know you're ordering, all this tactical stuff? But we'll get into all that. I've got to go to break. I was going to say, on the other side, I'll give it to you this way. It bothers me to no end that before the end of the day, the first day, we haven't found this guy yet, you saw people on both sides trying to point out, oh, he had flyers for the No King rally. He was a lefty. Other guys coming out, oh, he's a righty because he, I don't know, has got a voter card from 1922 from another. And I think to myself, who cares? The guy blew a nut. The guy's an idiot. The guy is off the chart, off the reservation, whatever you want to say. Does it matter what his political affiliation is? I don't hold you, Mr. Putnam, personally responsible because the nut that shot Trump. You can have your sides. It's whether you got your faculties or not. And this guy didn't, but for whatever reason, some people have to have that, even if they have to make it up an hour after this whole thing started. Do you know what I'm talking about? I'll talk to you on the other side. I got him, Senator Aric Putnam. Maybe I didn't ask that question very well or state it, but I'm mad about it.
Achieving your financial goals requires individual planning and a comprehensive approach. At Midwest Money Management, our mission is to provide you with the knowledge, tools, and confidence to feel comfortable financially today and secure about tomorrow. Learn more at MidwestMoneyManagement.com. That's MidwestMoneyManagement.com.
Securities offered through JW Cole Financial Inc., member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services offered through JW Cole Advisors Inc. Midwest Money Management and JW Cole Financial Inc. and JW Cole Advisors Inc. are unaffiliated entities.
Dust from gravel roads and driveways does more than make your car dirty inside and out. It gets down into your lungs, and it's bad for your health. Now there's an environmentally friendly solution for your dust problems. It's called Dust Lock. Dust Lock can control all your summer dust problems with just one application. Protect your vehicle and your lungs. Learn more at dustlock.com.
as in alligator. L also in alligator. But it's not alligator. It's the Al Travis Show.
We've got him, Senator Aric Putnam of the program. Senator, let me put it this way. I am a man with exactly three feelings: happy, sad, and mad. They're all diversions of this. I'm very happy my friend John Hoffman did not die and his wife survived. I'm very sad about the Hortmans and what happened to them. I'm very mad, obviously, at the guy who did this, but I'm kind of also really mad at a way a lot of people are handling this. I give the exception of all the senators and representatives and Democrats, Republicans that I know. All of you so far have been very much team players and helping each other up, good sportsmen, if you will. But that's not the same for the weirdos online. And I'm very, very mad at the people that have to have some way of saying, well, I told you he was a right-wing knucklehead, or I told you, good God, what does that have to do with anything right now? Sorry. So I'm mad. That's me. Where are you at on all this?
I'm totally with you. I went quickly on that day. Then I was kind of stuck at home. One of the first news articles I saw in the St. Paul Times, one of the first comments was this conspiracy foolishness, and it's not just in this case in particular. It's not just evil. It's not just heartless and mean. It's also really stupid.
Yeah,
really stupid. I mean, you should be. I sometimes think you should have a breathalyzer on your computer so you can't comment if you're drunk. But we should also have did you Google it first?
Yeah.
So the first story I was hearing was about how this, and this Mike Lee character tweeted this out too. This idea that it was a hit, basically. It was one that Wall's appointee and therefore he's a Democrat. Yeah. Not true. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Also, the connection between that and then murder, also ridiculous. But then this story that this was revenge from the far left on moderate Democrats.
Yeah.
And John didn't even vote that way on the thing that they're talking about. Just Google the damn thing first. Have think for half a second before you're evil, and maybe you won't be evil if you could just think a little bit better.
Aric, excuse me. Here's my play on this, because I think at some point we just got to stop it. I got a story about two right-wing influencers. By the way, I never even heard their names. They're so big right-wing, I didn't even know who they were. But there's this Senator Mike Lee or whatever out in Utah, right? 20 years ago, he babbles on something stupid about this, and that's what he did. He babbles on. None of us in Minnesota have to live with it, right? We wouldn't have known about it. How would I know what Mike Lee in Utah said? But now it becomes a thing, and now I've heard it, now I've read it, now I can't unhear it. We got to stop sharing the crap. I almost swore on my own radio show. Because those influencers who write crazy right-wing nut job things, guess what? If you like and share it and move it on, that's how he makes his money. Right. So stop it. This stuff dries up if the rest of us just stop reading it, stop biting into it, because now it'll get worse first. Because as soon as the guy's number goes down, he's going to have to start writing more crazier crap. If we all just stop sharing, that money dries up, and guess what? He's not an influence because he's just an idiot with a keyboard, like you say, probably drunk off his butt. Isn't that how we can stop this crap?
That's 100% right, dude. I could not agree with you more.
Good.
That's exactly it. This is attention mongering. That's what it is. People want attention, and attention comes to. They think that attention equates to wealth, and in some cases it does. That's all this. This is, so they're stupid, they're evil, and they're children too.
Yeah.
You just want attention. And it's almost like sometimes I feel in politics, it's a little bit like you're in an elementary school playground, and some girl or some boy likes you, so they poke you and run away, or they punch you and run away, because that's how they think they get attention, is by being bad, and it's not good.
Well, and I don't know, we'll find out at sometime down the road what this whole guy's theory was, I presume, but it's back to, I throw it out there as just a theory. If this is how this guy wants to go out, and he believes, because wherever he's online or whatever, he's going to be the savior of us all, who gave him that idea? I didn't ask this guy to do me any favors. Why do you think you're that important to me that you should do what, anyway, I'm so mad today. I'm sorry, Aric, Senator Putnam. I appreciate you. I appreciate what you're going through. If there's anything the rest of us can do for you, just let us know. Prayers be with you and your friends in the next week or so. I don't know when the funerals and all that go on. I'm sorry for what you're going through.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
But we're kind of all going through it together, I got to say.
Yeah, but that's back to if it happened in Phoenix. We're all going through it supposedly, but it wouldn't have bothered me that much. The fact I know some of you that really drives me a little crazier than most, you're living in the pool. These are your friends and colleagues. These are people you sat next to and might have argued, and you and I argue all the time, might have argued about something, but then you're out there, hey, let's go grab some lunch. You're a good guy, and this has got to hurt, and it's different for you living in it. And I'm sorry. And again, back to the police officers involved, you all gave up your weekend. Thank you for getting us safe again, if that as safe as we're going to be. Thanks, Putnam. Appreciate you.
Thank you, my friend.
Chanhassen Dinner Theaters brings you